Hey cats, what's happening? Welcome to another edition of my version of Biker for Dummies. Today we're going to talk about the basics of riding a motorcycle. If you've never ridden before, you don't have any idea what riding a motorcycle is about, then this video will be for you. We'll talk about all the very basic things you'll need to know to ride a motorcycle. One of the first things you're going to want to do is find a motorcycle that's going to fit you. People come in all sizes and shapes, and depending on your build, you have to have something that's going to fit you comfortably. There's all different sizes of motorcycles, from great big huge dressers to the little small street bikes, even to go a little lower than that, a dirt bike, or even a mini bike or something to start with. Find something that you're comfortable with though. If you've never ridden before, you want to start out small and then graduate up. When you're going out to shop for a motorcycle, first thing you're going to look at is where you're going to sit. Motorcycles have different types of seats. This one is a saddle. It's one basic wide seat. It does have a passenger seat that goes on here. I don't have it on here right now. The passenger seat is also a saddle. The bigger dresser bikes have a bigger saddle, and the passenger seat even has armrests if you decide you want to go with that option. Some of the smaller bikes will have like a bench seat, which isn't quite as comfortable. Now the next thing you're going to want to look at is take the bike up off the kickstand. Make sure both of your feet will fit flat on the ground. You don't want to be on your tiptoes struggling to balance the bike. Your feet are flat on the ground and the bike's up, you feel very secure. Now, some people are worried about the size and the weight of a bike. This particular model of Harley Davidson is around 800 pounds. That's pretty heavy. But where I have it right now, sitting level, my center of gravity is pretty low, and I have no trouble balancing it with my legs with very little effort. Now if I started to tip the bike over and lean it one way or the other, the center of gravity begins to pull and it can become heavy very quickly. So if you keep it, straight up and down, you're not going to have any trouble balancing this thing. Kickstand down, set it back down. Now I started it out riding a bicycle when I was a kid. And if you've ever ridden a bicycle, it's all pretty relative. If you rode one bicycle, you can ride another bicycle. It's almost the same with a motorcycle. Once you've learned the basics of riding, and you've learned how to handle a bike, they're all kind of relative. Even the great big heavy bikes, as long as you stay within that center of gravity, you're going to be able to handle it, no matter how strong you are. Once you get it rolling down the road, it's just about balance, and there's no difference in riding a smaller bike to a big bike. Well, I say that I shouldn't quite say that, because this bike is in the bottom of the cruiser status, so you'll notice the tires are just a little bit wider, and with the wider tires it'll travel down the road much smoother. Smaller the bike, the smaller the tires, you'll feel the lines and the bumps in the roads a little bit more. The cruisers are designed with just a little more comfort, a little more stability for longer drives, longer rides. If you're planning on doing long rides on a small bike, there's going to be a lot of vibration, a lot more discomfort in the ride. So the bigger the bike you go, the more comfort you got a little more weight. With that weight comes a little more power. Now second, we come into the power issue. If I I give this bike the gas, if I twist back on the throttle and give it the gas, is it going to shoot off like a rocket ship. This particular model isn't designed to be a race bike. It's heavy and it's not extremely fast. I'm not going to wheelie over backwards by twisting on the throttle, but it will accelerate rather quickly, probably a little faster than a car. Some of the sport bikes, on the other hand, have a lot more power compared to the size of the bike. So by twisting back on the throttle, you could definitely bring the front wheel up in the air and end up on your can on the ground in a hurry. So you want to take that into consideration if you've never ridden before. Dirt bikes or off-road bikes have a lot of torque, a lot of power. Again, they accelerate very quickly, and you can go over backwards on them by giving it too much gas. But I'll tell you what, learning how to ride in the dirt or in the field or around the yard is probably the best way you're going to learn how to handle a motorcycle before you head out on the street. One thing you're going to want to remember when climbing onto a motorcycle is how to get onto it. You want to do it in a way where you're not going to damage your paint, your back fender. So this is the best tip I can give you. Approach the bike from the side, grab hold of the handlebar, and swing your leg over the back. Keep your foot high. That way your foot isn't going to hit the fender, scratch up some paint. You never want to try to lift your foot over the front here. You're definitely going to have footprints all over your gas tank. And I think if you have any pride in your motorcycle, as I do, you don't want that to happen. Once you've got yourself seated on the bike, grab hold of the handlebars with both hands and push it up off of the kickstand and straighten out the front tire. At that point, you'll want to put your kickstand up. Let's look at the motorcycle controls for a minute. On the handlebars, you have two basic controls. On the right-hand side is your hand throttle. And over on the left-hand side, you have your clutch lever. On the right-hand side, where your footrest is, you will also have a foot brake. And on most motorcycles, where your footrest is, on the left-hand side, you will have a foot-operated shift lever. Along with the throttle control, there is also a front brake lever. This controls braking on the front wheel alone. The foot brake, on the other hand, right down here, that offers braking to the rear wheel only. Now, I don't want to confuse you too much, because every motorcycle is just a little bit different. You're going to find some little things that are different, but these are basic controls that you'll find on almost every motorbike. So now I'm going to take this time to try to teach you how to ride a motorcycle. I've used this method on a couple of beginner riders, and it seems to have worked pretty good for them. I'm going to suggest when you start, you take your motorcycle to a broad open place, preferably a big field or somebody who has a nice big yard that you can practice in. It'll give you plenty of room for error. Somewhere where there's not a lot of trees or obstacles, where you have plenty of clearance to be able to negotiate around safely. And in the grass, if you do crash, you're not going to get hurt real bad. If there's a big parking lot available, that's fine. But remember, if you crash in a parking lot, you're going to get skinned up a little bit more, and you can do a little more more damage to the motorcycle as well. I would suggest the way I learned is starting off in the grass. Most motorcycles have a fuel valve. In this position, the fuel is on. If I turn it in this position, the fuel is off. And if I turn the valve straight up, that offers me a reserve fuel. In case I run out of gas, that'll take me another 20 miles down the road or so. I want to make sure that the fuel is on, and I keep it in that down position. If I were to run out of fuel, I could turn this all the way up and still be able to get to a gas station. Right next to the fuel is the choke valve. Most motorcycles will have a choke for the engine. The first thing you want to do is pull that choke out when the engine is cold. This is a Harley Davidson model, so it's a push in and pull out. Some of them may have a lever similar to this for the choke that you flip up the choke and pull down. As I say, some motorcycles are different. When the engine's cold, though, you want to pull that choke all the way out. Now, on this Harley Davidson and other models, you'll want to twist the throttle a couple times, and that feeds fuel into the carburetor to start it easier. At this point, I'm ready to turn the ignition on, and I should be able to see a green neutral light. Tells me that the transmission is in neutral and that I am not engaged in gear. Once I'm sure that it's in neutral, I'm going to hit the starter button. Now, you probably noticed when I pushed the choke in, the engine idle slowed way down, and that's the way it should be for operating. So you want to leave the choke out for a minute or two till the engine starts to warm up, and then slowly push that choke in so that the engine idles at a low, smooth RPM. Now, with the engine running, the first thing you're going to want to do is pull the clutch lever in. Pull it all the way in until it contacts the hand grip. You're going to want to maintain a tight grip on that and keep that clutch lever in. The next thing you're going to do on the same side of the bike is click the transmission into gear. So by pushing down on the shift lever on this model, one click, it is now in first gear. I will notice that my neutral light is no longer on. That tells me that the transmission is engaged. When I start to let this lever out, the bike's going to begin to move forward. While the engine is idling, I want you to slowly let the clutch lever out until you feel the bike starting to move a little bit, and then pull it back in. I want you to let the clutch lever out again until you start to feel the bike start to move just a very little bit, and pull it back in. And I want you to practice this until you realize that's the point where your bike's going to start taking off. Now that the motorcycle is in gear, your hand is on the clutch lever, pulling in the clutch and holding it in. you're going to want to give the bike just a little bit more throttle, twist on the throttle grip, and at the same time you're giving it a little bit of throttle, you're going to slowly begin to let this clutch lever out. And as the clutch releases, the bike will begin to move forward. When you're comfortably moving forward, you can let go of the clutch. I practice by riding around in a nice wide open space. You can accelerate by giving it a little more gas with your throttle. Don't forget where your brake controls are. Your foot brake on the right, your front hand brake on the right. Now remember, the most important thing when you want to stop, you have to pull that clutch in. So if you start rolling, you let the clutch out, you give it a little bit of throttle, you start rolling along through the grass, and you panic, pull that back in, and you will stop. If you don't pull that back in, the bike's going to continue to roll forward because the transmission is engaged. Pull the clutch lever in, disengages the drivetrain. Use your foot pedal to slow the bike down and stop it. Once you've pulled the clutch in and come to a stop, you want to make sure you put the transmission back in neutral. Using your left foot, put your toe under the shift lever and gently pull up a click until it clicks into neutral. Again, you'll be able to look at your instrument panel and you'll be able to see that that neutral light is on, telling you that the transmission is engaged. At that point, you can release the clutch and the bike shouldn't move. You should be able to stay right here. Turn your engine off. And that's the basics of riding a motorcycle. Now remember, as I said, those are basics. The throttle, the clutch, that's going to propel you. Learn how to use that clutch handle. Remember, when you pull it in, it disengages everything and you'll be able to stop. That's really important. You need to practice that clutch. I used to practice just by holding my hands and thinking that I was hanging on to a motorcycle, and I would twist, give it some throttle, let the clutch out. Twist and let the clutch out. Twist and let the clutch out. It's almost like playing an instrument. After a while it comes naturally. But if you've never done it before, you're going to have to practice a little bit till you get it down. The next most important thing is you're going to have to remember where your brakes are. You got your brake pedal, you've got your hand brake. The hand brake applies braking to the front tire, the foot pedal applies braking to the back tire. In one of my other videos I talk about braking. When you apply the brakes, the weight of the bike shifts forward. If you're only using the foot pedal and your weight shifts forward, it lifts weight off of the back tire, you're likely to break traction and skid if you hit the foot brake a little too hard. If you use both of these together and do them both evenly, the weight will go forward. A lot of braking power will be on your front wheel. You'll be able to stop a lot easier. So I'll warn you of a couple other things in your learning how to ride. When you do go out on the road, I hope you're careful. I hope you'll take it easy to begin with. Find some place where the traffic isn't busy, some side streets or something you can practice on. Once you get a little more confident, you can go a little farther. Watch out for cars. It's very dangerous on the road today. People are on their cell phones. They're not paying attention. You see a lot of that today, more than it's never been like this before. It makes riding a motorcycle a lot more dangerous. So good luck to you. I hope your challenges in learning how to ride work out nice and easy without any big issues. I wish I could be there with you, because I'd show you firsthand how to do it. And I'm sure it won't take very long at all, and you'll be riding with the best of them. Until next time, ride hard, die free.